It is your destiny to ponder pop culture with me as we take a look back at the second and least liked Star Wars prequel to try to unravel the sinister schemes of Darth Sidious. Hey everybody, Ruminate here. Hope this video finds you well. We're going to continue our examination of the political narrative of the Star Wars prequels, which is the one thing about these movies that I and many others agree was handled pretty damn well. Palpatine's rise to power is compelling, broadly coherent, and is something that distinguishes him in the pantheon of great cinema villains. The plot of this movie, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is very different, however, from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, or even Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, because it really doesn't stand strongly on its own, okay? The plots of those two movies are very straightforward, all things considered. But in Episode 2, George Lucas tries to tell a space noir detective Agatha Christie story, and he's not very good at it. Okay, most of the vital information is there in the 2.5 hours that this movie runs, but the clues are presented in such a way that you basically need a flow chart and a pointer and tutors and remedial watching to try to understand it all. So we're going to do this video a bit different than we did the Episode 1 video. Instead of following the plot of the movie beat for beat as it unfolds in the movie, I'm going to give a chronological recap in universe of where Palpatine was at the end of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where he needed to get to this movie, and what happens during this movie to help his rise to power. So, at the end of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Darth Sidious lost Darth Maul, who was defeated and presumed killed at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But he gained something a hell of a lot more valuable, which was the Supreme Chancellorship. He went from Senator Palpatine of Naboo to Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. But since Palpatine's goal is unlimited power, that's still a far cry from where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be a term-limited, democratically elected leader, so he still has a ways to go before he's ready to truly rule the galaxy as he wants to. And he also needs to pick up a new Sith apprentice. Since he's a public official in hiding, right, he's concealing his Sith heritage, and he's surrounded by 10,000 Jedi on Coruscant. He can't pull out his lightsaber and go around hacking people down left, right, and center. So he needs a new agent, a new enforcer. Okay? I should also mention that there are 10 years between the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. So in that time frame, Palpatine does recruit a new Sith apprentice. The guy we know in this movie is Count Dooku, a former Jedi Knight, the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, who was Obi-Wan's master. So he's basically Obi-Wan's Jedi grandpa and Anakin's Jedi great-grandpa. He was also the apprentice himself of Yoda, so he's a very powerful, very well-established Jedi. Sidious is able to lure him to the dark side and get him to leave the Jedi Order. While this is going on, another Jedi contemporary of Dooku's, Sifo-Dyas, gets this vision that the Republic will be in peril one day, and since they don't have an army, they're going to need a way to defend themselves. So he goes to the mysterious planet Kamino and puts in an order for a clone army because the Kaminoans are cloners. He says, look, the Republic's going to need an army, so I'm submitting an order for a clone army. Dooku finds out about this, and therefore so does Sidious. So Sidious decides to hijack this idea of Sifo-Dyas and take control of the clone army. And he has Dooku murder Sifo-Dyas, that way the project is kept secret from the rest of the Jedi and the Republic. And in the meantime, Dooku takes control of the project on behalf of Darth Sidious. So he recruits a template for the Kaminoans. He gets somebody to be the template for the clone army, Jango Fett. And he lets the project run in secret for the next 10 years. In the meantime, Dooku, who as Count of Sereno and an ex-Jedi, is one of the wealthiest and most influential and charismatic people in the galaxy. And shortly before the events of Attack of the Clones, he starts to fire up a separatist movement. Because you see, at about the time of Attack of the Clones, Palpatine is at the end of his second and final term in office. And because he's an unrepentant fascist, in order to stay in office and continue to accumulate power, he needs a crisis in order to milk that crisis to get the executive power he needs. So he has Dooku fire up a secessionist movement, and Dooku convinces thousands of star systems who are so pissed off at the corrupt Republic to announce their intention to leave. And this causes an immense political and cultural and economic crisis. Because the Republic has no standing army, they don't really have a means to force the secessionist systems back into the fold, and they really don't have a means to defend themselves other than by relying on the Jedi Order, just like they did in The Phantom Menace. The problem is this crisis is so big, it's a galactic scale, it's beyond the ability of the Jedi Order to maintain for very long. So for the first time in 1,000 years, it's actually being debated in the Galactic Senate that the Republic might need a standing army, and thus a Military Creation Act is proposed. If passed, it would allow the Republic to create an army for the first time in 1,000 years, to defend itself against the Separatists, or to force them back into the fold, and help the Jedi out. So now Palpatine's essentially got a template for a civil war that he can milk to gather executive power unto himself. This crisis also lets him stay in office past his 2 allotted terms. Now, Palpatine is very careful, just like he was in Episode 1. He's trying to be unassuming and trustworthy, so he doesn't promote the Military Creation Act. He doesn't ask for it to be passed. He doesn't really seem interested in creating an army or leading one. Instead, throughout the movie, he continues to emphasize the importance of negotiations and diplomacy. But since he's ultimately the leader of the Separatists as well through Dooku, all of those attempts at diplomacy and negotiation fail, and thus the galaxy seems heading towards some sort of military crisis. Now, while that's going on, Dooku is not only courting star systems, but he's reaching out to major trade and commercial organizations like the Intergalactic Banking Clan and the Commerce Guild, private groups that actually have their own private armies. And that includes the Trade Federation, the villains from Episode 1, and Newt Gunray, their leader. And he says, guys, join my separatist movement. We'll break away from the Republic. It'll be good for everybody. Gunray says, yeah, I'd love to, but I have one condition. You have to kill Padme Amidala, the person I hate most in this world. Because when she was Queen of Naboo in Episode 1, she defeated him and had him arrested. So he's embarrassed and he hates her guts. And as a precondition of joining Dooku's cause, he demands that she be killed. Now, Padme at this time is no longer Queen of Naboo. She is Senator of Naboo. Okay, she's Naboo's representative. She took Palpatine's place. And she is a vocal opponent of the Military Creation Act. She's a pacifist. She does not want to see war. She doesn't want the Republic to arm itself. She has her faith in diplomacy. Palpatine secretly needs that Military Creation Act to pass, even though publicly he's like, yeah, sure, I'm with you, Padme. Absolutely. Peace, peace, peace. Negotiation, diplomacy, no war. But in reality, he needs that damn bill to pass. And so he needs her out of the way. So, in true Palpatine fashion, this is a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Killing Padme will eliminate her opposition to the Military Creation Act and make it easier to pass, and it will also satisfy Newt Gunray's condition to join the Separatists. So, he approves her to be killed. Dooku hires Jango Fett, the clone template for the clone army on Kamino. He's also a badass bounty hunter, and he makes multiple attempts on Padme's life throughout this movie, at least 2. But both attempts fail. Padme survives, and she continues to be a thorn, secretly, in Palpatine's side. So Palpatine has to adapt. If he can't easily kill her, he needs to find another way to get her off-world, okay? And this is where he pulls a fast one. He arranges for Padme to be put under the protection of Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Knight. In the 10 years that between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, Anakin has trained under Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Jedi arts, and he's very powerful, and he and Palpatine have continued to have a relationship with one another. Palpatine is trying to groom Anakin eventually to become his new Sith apprentice, though that'll be much later. He also knows that Anakin still has a secret crush on Padme based on their interactions 10 years before during the events of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So because he can't have Padme killed, the next best thing is just to get her out of the way. So because of the assassination attempts on her life, Palpatine is able to arrange it so that Anakin and Padme go back to her homeworld of Naboo. So she's off Coruscant. She's not in the Senate. She's not there to oppose the Military Creation Act. And it puts temptation in Anakin's path, this forbidden romance between he and Padme, which Palpatine can later exploit to lure him to the dark side. So it's a beautiful case of adaptation. While that's going on, Padme has ceded her senatorial responsibilities to her junior senator, her second in command as Naboo's representative, who happens to be Jar Jar Binks, the Gungan from Episode 1. Now, Jar Jar doesn't seem very well educated or seem like a good fit for the Senate, but he's sincere, he means well, and he's got Naboo's interests at heart, so Padme trusts him. Unfortunately, because he doesn't know any better, he's much more easily manipulated by Palpatine than Padme is. So while Padme and Anakin are on Naboo and the tension and forbidden romance is brewing, Palpatine is putting pressure indirectly on Jar Jar to back the Military Creation Act. Another subplot's going on, though, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is investigating Jango Fett and his multiple attempts on Padme's life. A trail of clues leads him to Kamino, the planet of the cloners creating the clone army. Obi-Wan doesn't know about the clone army until he gets there, and he discovers it, and the cloners are like, hey, look, 10 years ago, one of your fellow Jedi, Sifo Dyas, he placed an order for a clone army for the Republic, and it's almost ready. And Obi-Wan's like, wow, I had no idea. By the way, Sifo Dyas died about 10 years ago. And they're like, well, it's almost ready. Here you go. So he reports this back to the Jedi Council, who are also surprised. Mace Windu and Yoda have no idea that this clone army was being built for them, built for the Republic, let alone ordered by one of their own. So they're just kind of scratching their heads. They ask Obi-Wan to take Jango into custody to find out what the hell happened. And Jango says, look, Sifo Dyas didn't hire me. A guy named Tyrannus hired me to be the template for the clone army. So Sifo Dyas ordered the clone army, but he didn't hire the clone template. That was a guy called Tyrannus. So Jango Fett escapes as Obi-Wan tries to take him into custody and bring him back for questioning. Obi-Wan pursues and follows him to the planet Geonosis. Geonosis is this rocky world that is home to droid foundries where battle droids are being created. And there Obi-Wan learns that the Trade Federation and a bunch of other organizations like the Commerce Guild and Intergalactic Banking Clan, they are on Geonosis and they're going to take delivery of new droid armies for their private businesses. Count Dooku is also there, and he's hosting a secret summit to try to lure them into the separatist cause. And Obi-Wan is spying on this, and he hears Dooku say, look, join my separatist movement. We'll be able to demand anything we want of the Republic. The Jedi will be overwhelmed. It'll be a win-win situation for everybody. So again, Obi-Wan reports this back to the Senate and to the Jedi, and he's like, look, not only do we have a clone army we didn't know about, but I found out that the Trade Federation and Commerce Guilds are here to essentially increase their droid armies, and Dooku is luring them into the separatist fold, and they're going to present a major military threat to the Republic. Obi-Wan is captured and interrogated by Dooku, but at least the Senate and Jedi know now what's going on. And so while this is going on, Palpatine is able to put the pressure on Jar Jar, again, indirectly, that the Military Creation Act needs to pass. We now know that there's a clone army that's available and it's made for the Republic. We just need to accept it. And now we have a reason to do it because the Separatists are gearing up for war. We now have proof of that. So we know it's not just a sheer secessionist movement. They might declare war on us if need be. So the stakes are even higher. And Jar Jar finally succumbs to pressure and publicly proposes in the Senate that Palpatine be granted emergency powers to create or assume command of an army. Palpatine feigns reluctance. He says, it's with great reluctance that I've agreed to this. I love democracy. I love the Republic. The power you give me, I will lay down once this crisis is resolved. He says, but my first act with this new authority will be to create a grand army of the Republic. So now the Republic is in a position, and Palpatine has the legal authority to create an army. So the Jedi, specifically Yoda, they go to Kamino in order to take command of the clone army. Meanwhile, Mace Windu and a bunch of other Jedi go to Geonosis to rescue the captive Obi-Wan. While that has gone on, Anakin and Padme, their simmering, awkward sexual tension has continued to bubble, but they also go to Geonosis to rescue Obi-Wan. Their rescue attempt fails, they're captured, and so Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme are slated to be executed. Before they're executed, the Jedi show up under Mace Windu. 200 Jedi kick ass, but they are just so outnumbered by Count Dooku's droids that it looks like everybody is well and truly until Master Yoda and the clone army show up on Geonosis, and thus the first battle of the Clone Wars breaks out between the Separatist droids and the clone army. Now, the Battle of Geonosis ends with a Republic tactical victory because the clones win, but most of the Separatists and the Separatist leaders and the Separatist droids escape into space. Okay, so it's a strategic failure and guarantees that the Clone Wars will continue. While that's going on, Count Dooku feigns surprise when the other Separatists are like, "What the hell? I didn't realize the Republic had an army. Where did this come from?" Dooku says, "I have no idea." And he then takes these secret prototype plans for the Death Star that was being designed on Geonosis. He takes them and says that this will be safer in the hands of my master. I'll take them with me. Dooku, like the other Separatist leaders, manages to escape. Okay, so Newt Gunray and Poggle the Lesser and the leaders of the Techno Union and Commerce Guild, they all manage to escape. Okay, the Republic doesn't really achieve any major strategic victories other than a small tactical victory in the battle itself. So in the aftermath, the Jedi realize that the Clone Wars have just begun and that Geonosis is really not the victory it seems. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine and a bunch of senators oversee on Coruscant the loading of clone troops in vast warships ready for deployment, okay, setting up the Clone Wars. And Count Dooku rendezvous with his Sith Master, Darth Sidious, a.k.a. Palpatine himself, on Coruscant. He turns over the Death Star plans, and he says, "The war has begun. Everything's going according to plan." And that's essentially how the movie transpires. It's a very long and convoluted scheme that requires a lot of adaptation from Darth Sidious. But he ultimately, as was the case in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, ends up exactly where he needs to be. The Clone Wars have started. He now has the beginning of emergency powers in order to command an army, and he has an artificial conflict to milk for the next 3 years or so into the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So, that's a recap of the storyline of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Again, compared to Episode 1, it is infinitely more convoluted. This information is dispersed within the film and in the script and in deleted scenes and in Star Wars, The Clone Wars and whatnot. It requires a lot of work to make the most sense of, especially compared to the other two prequels. But it goes to show Palpatine's flexibility, his patience, his adaptiveness, the fact that he operates indirectly rather than just aggressively, seize power at the first opportunity. He's willing to take the long, spiraled route, and it's very interesting to watch. So in our next video, we will go to Episode 3 and examine the culmination of Palpatine's schemes in the prequel that is considered by most people, myself included, to be the best of them, which is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Now, we're looking to grow the channel as aggressively as possible this year, so if you haven't yet, we'd really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, and follow us on any or all of our social media pages. The links are below. And whether you agree or disagree with the contents of this particular video, you are welcome to leave a comment, because we are always open to constructive feedback and discourse. And on that note, I look forward to pondering politics and pop culture again with you real soon.